Hi. Join my Patreon! Give me money! Give me money! If you're wearing headphones at the beginning of this video, f*** you! Also, if you do give me money on Patreon, you get to vote in our monthly video suggestion poll, and that way you can suggest a really exciting topic for me to make a video on. You know, something that really gets your adrenaline and dopamine flowing, just like today's video suggested by our patrons on the topic of a breakdown on how to vote, explaining preferential voting, preference deals, and voting strategies in the federal election.
What the hell is that?
Why are there so many nerds on my Patreon? Come on! More of you well-adjusted types need to join up just so you can suggest way trendier video ideas, such as, what if Warhammer and Yu-Gi-Oh! Were in the same universe? I will actually make that video if enough patrons vote for it. So the power is yours! Do it today! Give me money! Cause for now, you have to listen to me whinge about preference deals for the next 10 minutes. I hope you're happy. And you can already get that shit for free from your grandma who watches too much Paul Murray anyway. Now, listen, Ted, the woke soy party of Australia have a dodgy deal to give all their preferences to that filthy Italian communist. Oh, come on, Nancy, I've been having way more baths ever since I lost weight. The first thing I need to stress that everyone in Australia needs to get this through their thick heads, that we're not the US, the Labor Party are not the Democrats. I mean, there's an argument to be made that the Australian Liberal Party are more, if I may borrow a pretty meaningless phrase from every awful political Twitch streamer ever, leftist than the Democrats. It's just transplanting that lazy South Park notion of both major parties are shit and shit light. It's got to be the worst myth infesting Australian democracy. Anthony Albanese is not Hillary Clinton. Adam Bandt is not Bernie Sanders. Scott Morrison is not Donald Trump. Chris Pine, however, is Lindsey Graham. Just get that out of your head. The Labor Party gave us universal healthcare in the 80s. The Democrats don't even want to give it to their citizens during a pandemic. Correlating US politics with Australian politics is almost as absurd as drawing comparisons between Australia and, I don't know, China. Actually, sorry, that's not absurd at all. Ever heard of Dictator Dan? But essentially my main point in this video is that the best outcome for Australia in this election is going to be a Labor victory. The removal of Scott Morrison and his corrupt government, the most corrupt government since Federation. The second best outcome would be a power sharing agreement between Craig Kelly and Adam Bandt, because how f***ing funny would that be? Coalition of the unwilling.
Yeah, mate, green and gold. Can't get any more Aussie than that.
Oh my god, don't say Aussie, that's not it, Chief. If you care about Australia, your main goal in voting should be preventing another miracle, not sending a message to Labor that their campaign didn't resonate with you personally. Which is why, when you vote, you look at the seat you're in and you vote for the candidate that is most likely to boot a coalition MP out. That isn't the UAP, because let's be honest, even if they win, about 50% of their candidates look like they're on the verge of a heart attack. And do you really want that many by-elections to deal with? If you're in a seat held by Labor, or most likely to be won by Labor, you vote for Labor. If you're in one of those rich people upset by Scott Morrison's faux bogan demeanour electorate, you vote for the independent or green most likely to win against the Libs. And if you're in heaven, aka Kennedy, you vote for Bob Katter. Here's my preference. Shut the f*** up! Now cue the comments explaining to me, a political commentator for a decade. Actually, did you know Australia has a preferential voting system? Okay, because I love my patrons, let's explain how preferential voting works. And, oh, sorry, we don't have time. Here's an AEC flyer instead. But yeah, very quickly, because I know a lot of my audience have enjoyed a little too much ketamine. On your voting card, you number your candidates by how you preference them. If no candidate gets above 50% of first preferences, the candidate with the least votes gets eliminated, and the second preferences on those votes are counted instead. This process continues until someone gets over 50% of the votes and wins. Political parties tailor their election strategies to account for preferential voting. I mean, take this as a purely hypothetical scenario. Say you're a political party, the shit party, and last year you decided to force a whole bunch of less wealthy areas in Western Sydney into lockdown while also allowing the richer areas to roam free. And now all the people in Western Sydney are pissed off at you and there's no way they're going to vote for you. What do? You bank on a shiny new minor party, the we're shit but we pretend to like freedom party. This party is made up entirely of your operatives and people that used to be high up in the shit party. This minor party then advertises against those lockdowns your party imposed, which hopefully means your disaffected voters will now vote for the we're shit but we pretend to like freedom party, who just coincidentally also recommended preferencing the shit party before the viable alternative God's gift to Australia party. But you know, that's just hypothetical. Not all minor parties are fronts for major parties, such as the Greens, who use the spectre of preferential voting to claim that there are no risks voting for them first and putting Labor second. There's a problem with that argument though, because unlike the UAP, who solely exists to prop up the Liberals, the Greens have no intention at all of helping Labor. In fact, this election, the Greens are spending most of their resources not trying to get rid of the Liberals. They're trying to win seats from Labor held by Labor MPs who are arguably more progressive than a lot of the Greens members. It's an exercise in raw political ambition. This isn't just a theory. This has been proclaimed by the Greens themselves. They said that Griffith, Kevin Rudd's old seat, is their most winnable. And who's in Griffith now? Labor left Shadow Environment Minister Terry Butler. And who are the Greens putting up? Ex-Labor member Max Chandler Mather, who, to borrow a phrase from everyone in the press ever, I'm sure he's a nice enough guy, but does he really have the ticker for the big seat? As a consequence of the Greens pouring all of their resources into this seat, Labor have been forced to put a shit ton of resources into Griffith to shore it up from that challenge. Meaning that less resources are going into nearby seats such as Dixon. And who currently holds Dixon? This guy.
Dutton, give it to you, what?
Look, just go watch my video on Dutton. But yeah, Dutton's inside Dixon and the Greens aren't wedging Labor in order to achieve some sort of policy goal. No matter what Labor brings to the table, the Greens will always exist to yell, not good enough! So even if the Greens win, using their own logic that Labor's drifted too far to the right, think about this. There are 2 federal Labor left MPs in Queensland, and the only one that holds a portfolio will have been replaced by a Green who will never be in government. What do you think that's going to achieve for Australia? You won't even get your one term of Labor minority government backed by the Greens, as I know for a fact, rightly or wrongly, Labor would rather wait it out than power share with the Greens for a term, as that'll result in another decade of opposition. So, do you really want to vote for a Lib-Green alliance? I mean, they're actually targeting more Labor seats than coalition seats. That's not a conspiracy. That's widely publicised by the Greens themselves. All that being said though, if you're in a Liberal-held seat like Kooyong that's more likely to be won by them than Labor, by all means, you vote for them over Labor. Same logic goes for those rich but woke blue ribbon-held Liberal seats. Vote for whoever is most likely to unseat the vampires currently holding them. That's another very interesting development this election. The climate wars that have been wedging Labor between their competing constituencies for over a decade, forcing Labor to balance between their professional city-based constituency and their regional mining-based constituency, those wars are finally wedging the Liberals. This election, the Liberals are at risk of losing their most safe blue ribbon seats to independents who believe in climate action. I mean, sorry. It's a bit of an indictment on Australia's elite that the richest, most well-educated electorates in the country took 10 years of the Liberals denying science before they finally thought, oh no, I'm terribly scared of the hypothetical idea that Labor could introduce an estate tax, but the rising sea levels against my waterfront property will be nature's estate tax. So yeah, if you're in one of those electorates like Wentworth, feel free to vote for whatever independent is polling best, which seems to be that firebrand investor come independent friend of the channel candidate, Dave Sharma. No, I'm still a Liberal, just don't tell anyone about it. Look at the only mentioning of the Liberal Party on his page. It's like the drink responsibly line in an alcohol ad. Now, wrapping up the video, if you're worried about your mates voting UAP, you just tell them Clive wants to preference the Greens above Labor. Also, here's a bunch of independents we like. Andrew Wilkie, Helen Haynes, Zali Steggall, Penny Ackery, who's taking on Angus Taylor, Zoe Daniel, who's taking on Tim Wilson, Georgia Steele and Hughes. It's a short list, isn't it? Look, if that was too complicated for you, just vote Labor. Anyway, this video was proudly sponsored by the good people at Patreon. If you would like to get your suggestions up on the board so they might get voted on, who knows? I really want that Yu-Gi-Oh! Warhammer video done. My 2 favourite subjects. Patreon.
I also have to say, can you sign up, you little shits? That demographic, 18 to 24, can you sign up? Can you go to the AEC website? You've only got a few hours left. And can you enrol to vote? The youth of Australia has the power to be the counterweight to the grey vote. So use your grey matter and sign up for the good of the country. Instead of sitting there and complaining, vote Labor and then sit there and complain, because I'm imagining that last 10% are going to be a lot of dregs. Because if you don't know that by now, that you have to actually sign up, you're probably not watching this. I'm imagining a lot of you are. But just in case there are those few bongs watching this channel instead of, oh yeah, that's a pretty good panel beating out in f***ing Dubbo. Here's hoping. Anyway, I'll see you next time with slightly better camera quality, definitely not anywhere near as good as it should be at the best of times.
Please share and comment below. Comment.